Kyber crystals have been at the center of Jedi and Sith conflicts for thousands of years, long before the Republic, the Clone Wars, or the rise of the Empire. These crystals, revered by the Jedi and coveted by the Sith, were not just the power source for lightsabers, but the foundation of ancient weapons, temples, and artifacts. Entire wars were fought over the control of Kyber crystals, and their power was enough to turn the tide of battle between light and dark. In the earliest days of the Jedi, before the Order was fully formed, Kyber crystals were believed to be divine artifacts, sacred fragments of the Force itself. Ancient Force-sensitive civilizations, including the precursors to the Jedi, discovered the resonance of these crystals and began using them in ceremonial weapons, primitive lightsabers, and even structures infused with the Force. The earliest Jedi, then known as the Jedi, used these crystals not only as tools but as a means of attuning themselves to the light and dark sides of the Force, believing that balance was the key to enlightenment. However, as the Jedi grew in number and solidified their belief in the light side of the Force, a schism formed between those who sought harmony and those who desired power. This led to one of the earliest recorded conflicts in Jedi history, the Force Wars of Tython. During these wars, Force-sensitive warriors fought over the right to wield Kyber crystals, with some believing that the crystals were meant only for those who followed the light side, while others saw them as a source of ultimate power, unrestricted by morality. As the Jedi Order took shape, they established a monopoly over Kyber crystals, restricting access to only those who followed their teachings. The Jedi considered themselves the rightful guardians of these crystals, believing that if they fell into the wrong hands, they could be used for destruction. This decision, however, created resentment among those who believed that Kyber crystals should be used freely. The Sith, who emerged from exiled Jedi that rejected the Order's doctrine, sought to break the Jedi's hold over Kyber crystals. They saw these powerful crystals as weapons of war and began crafting their own methods of harnessing their energy. Unlike the Jedi who meditated with their crystals, the Sith sought to dominate them. The result was centuries of conflict, as Sith warlords attempted to raid Jedi temples and sacred sites, stealing Kyber crystals to forge their own weapons. One of the earliest major battles fought over Kyber crystals took place on the planet Elam. Recognizing Elam as the primary source of Kyber crystals for Jedi lightsabers, the Sith launched several invasions in an attempt to seize control of the crystal caves. Each time, the Jedi successfully defended Elam, but the battles came at a great cost. Jedi warriors fell in battle, and entire caverns of crystals were destroyed in the crossfire. These wars forced the Jedi to implement even stricter measures to guard Elam, making it one of the most well-protected locations in the galaxy. The Sith, however, were not deterred. They sought out alternative sources of Kyber crystals, some of which led them to ancient and powerful relics. Some Sith lords believed that larger Kyber crystals, often referred to as Great Kyber crystals, held even greater power than those used in lightsabers. These massive crystals were capable of amplifying Force energy on an enormous scale, and Sith scientists and sorcerers worked to harness them for use in dark rituals and weapons of mass destruction. One such example was the Sith superweapon on Malachor. Deep within the ruins of an ancient Sith temple, a massive Kyber-powered battle station was discovered, one designed to unleash devastating energy waves capable of turning entire armies to stone. This superweapon, fueled by corrupted Kyber crystals, was ultimately never completed, as the weapon's activation resulted in the deaths of countless Sith and Jedi alike, leaving behind a wasteland of petrified warriors. Despite this failure, the Sith continued their experiments with Kyber crystals, leading to the creation of even deadlier superweapons. Some Sith warlords sought to forge weapons beyond lightsabers, devices that could channel Kyber energy into concentrated beams of destruction. The concept of using Kyber crystals to power planet-destroying weapons did not begin with the Death Star. It was an idea that had existed for thousands of years, as Sith lords dreamed of wielding the full power of the Force through artificial means. These wars over Kyber crystals shaped the galaxy in ways few truly understood. The Jedi, realizing how much the Sith desired the crystals, worked tirelessly to hide and protect their locations, sealing off ancient temples and encoding star maps to prevent future invasions. Many worlds that once held abundant Kyber crystals became lost to history, buried beneath time and legend. But the Sith never gave up their search for ultimate power. Even after centuries of failed attempts, their obsession with Kyber crystals would resurface in the age of the Galactic Empire. In the next section, we will explore how Emperor Palpatine and his scientists revived the ancient Sith dream of weaponized Kyber crystals, leading to the construction of the most destructive weapon in the history of the galaxy, the Death Star. The Great Kyber Wars. Jedi versus Sith, conflict over crystals. The struggle between the Jedi and the Sith was never just about philosophy, it was also about power. For thousands of years, Kyber crystals were at the heart of this conflict. These rare, Force-sensitive crystals were the source of Jedi lightsabers, the key to Sith superweapons, and the reason behind some of the bloodiest wars in galactic history. The Jedi, seeing Kyber crystals as sacred, sought to protect them from being misused. They built temples around crystal-rich planets, established guardians to protect key locations, and ensured that only trained Jedi could access them. The Sith, on the other hand, viewed Kyber crystals as tools to be conquered and controlled. They sought to dominate the Force through their will, and to them, Kyber crystals were simply a means to an end. The first recorded major war over Kyber crystals occurred thousands of years before the rise of the Republic. In these early battles, Jedi and Sith forces clashed over key Kyber-rich planets such as Ilum, Jedha, and Ossus. These planets became battlegrounds, their sacred crystal caves turned into war zones as both sides fought for control. The Jedi, believing that Kyber crystals should only be used for peacekeeping, established hidden sanctuaries to protect them from falling into Sith hands. However, no matter how well they hid the crystals, the Sith would always find ways to uncover them. One of the most pivotal battles of this conflict took place on Utapau. It was here that a massive Sith fleet attempted to seize control of a hidden Jedi vault containing thousands of Kyber crystals. If the Sith had succeeded, they would have gained enough raw energy to forge an unstoppable army of weapons. However, the Jedi, led by a coalition of warriors and temple guards, launched a desperate counterattack. The resulting battle was one of the bloodiest in Jedi history, with entire legions of Force users fighting both in space and on the planet's surface. The Jedi ultimately secured the vault, but the cost was immense. Many of their greatest warriors fell, and the knowledge of Utapau's crystal deposits became widely known, ensuring that future conflicts would follow. The Sith, frustrated by their inability to claim Kyber crystals through conquest, began to seek alternative methods. Some, such as the Sith Lords of Malachor, experimented with artificial crystals, attempting to replicate the raw power of natural Kyber crystals. These experiments resulted in unstable, often dangerous weapons, some of which exploded upon activation, killing their wielders. Over time, the Jedi realized that they could not simply defend Kyber crystals forever. The Sith would always return, always find new ways to locate and corrupt them. In response, Jedi Masters began sealing away crystal-rich locations, cutting off access to both Jedi and Sith alike. Some sacred temples were collapsed, others hidden behind powerful Force barriers. Ilum, one of the most important crystal-rich planets in the galaxy, was reinforced with additional protections, making it nearly impossible for non-Jedi to enter. Despite these precautions, the Sith's obsession with Kyber crystals never waned. With each war, they pushed further, seeking new ways to weaponize the crystals. Some Sith Lords built massive warships powered by Kyber energy, their weapons capable of vaporizing entire fleets. Others sought to forge legendary Kyber-enhanced armor, believing that it would grant them invulnerability in battle. The Jedi, however, stood firm. Though they suffered heavy losses, they continued to defend the sacred nature of Kyber crystals. Their efforts ensured that for many centuries the Sith were unable to fully harness the power of the crystals for widespread destruction. But this uneasy balance would not last forever. As the Sith's influence grew, so too did their ambitions. They no longer sought just a handful of Kyber crystals to corrupt and wield. They wanted all of them. Their dream of an ultimate Kyber-powered weapon, one capable of shattering entire planets, began to take shape. The Jedi could not have known it at the time, but their long-standing battle to protect Kyber crystals would one day lead to their greatest failure. For even though they had fought for centuries to keep these sacred relics out of Sith hands, one Sith Lord would eventually succeed in weaponizing Kyber crystals on an unimaginable scale. His name was Emperor Palpatine, and his vision would culminate in the construction of the most devastating machine in the history of the galaxy, the Death Star.